All right, rewatchers, we've hit that portal and hit the rewind button, and it's time for your retro rewatch.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thanks for joining us again. Got part two of the retro rewatch, most rewatchable Jean Claude Van Damme movies, the man, the myth, the legend. Again, make sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. We're growing here. That really helps us out. Any other things from the previous three, Chris? You want to touch on?
Yeah, I before we had to cut the last one off before we get into the next movie. So like the end of Double Impact, the theme music or whatever you want to call it at the end is like hip hop rap something or another. Do you remember it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And there's some stuff like
Let's
that, and
get ready. Doom, 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 doom.
that's it. That's it. So this is a legitimate question. Okay. I'm not trying to lead or like tell you, but like, all right. So like with rock, you've got like classic rock, you've got alternative rock, this, that, and the third. Is there like classic rap? Like, cause I mean, some of that stuff is super cringy, but I have no, are there like satellite stations or radio stations or like, you understand what I'm saying? Is that a thing or is that just like forgotten music at this point?
Yeah, I think there's a Sirius XM 80s, 90s R&B, or yeah, there's solo 90s rap R&B for sure. It's classic
Okay.
rap to me.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
just I was just wondering. Okay.
Okay.
All right, we
Yeah,
can get
there
on
is.
to the next one now. We can
Okay.
go to the next one.
Yeah, jumping right into it. It's going to be 1992 Universal Soldier, aka what was the original name for? Do you know this, Chris? The
I
original name on the
don't.
script before it got changed in production and pre-production.
Guys that overheat a lot.
Crystal
I don't
Knights.
know.
Crystal Knights. And this is a
Why.
Roland Emmerich joint.
Yeah, no, he's gone on. I mean, he is a very divisive guy. Like him and who's the director he always works with? Like they did The Patriot and Independence Day, Roland Emmerich
Yeah.
and oh my gosh, his name's escaping me right now.
This is director Roland Emmerich's first American film too, according to
Dean
IMDb.
Devlin. It's
Yeah,
Dean
Dean
Devlin and
Devlin.
Roland Emmerich. That I guess Dean Devlin's the producer, but yeah, they like always work together. Sorry, go ahead.
So got John Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren, great villain. There's the classic one. Unisols,
Okay,
Universal Soldiers. This was I believe it started out in 1969. They're both Vietnam veterans or Vietnam in that and soldiers. And then yeah, great intro scene actually, and had a small little cameo from who
Michael
ends
Jai
up being
White.
Michael Jai White. He was down in the hole. And he says, "Let's get the f out of here," and that was him, 1992. And then later he was Seth in Universal Soldier: The Return, 19.
It,
It was
it's funny.
1998, 99.
And you and I have talked about that before because there are interviews that you can watch with Michael Jai White because he's worked with Steven Seagal and Van Damme, and of course,
Mhm.
you could talk about the history between Van Damme and Seagal too. I
Yeah.
I don't know if you know those stories or not, but there's between the three of them, especially like there's just these like, yeah, he's not a real fighter or he's not a real tough guy or whatever. They all say it about each other, but Michael Jai White does like Van Damme and he talked about how much respect he has for him because the thing is like Seagal like looks down on everyone like they have no value that it's like you're beneath me, get under my heel. And he was like, man, on Universal Soldier, like Van Damme would spar with anybody. It was just fun to like be able to compete with a guy of his caliber, saying that he was really good at his craft. And so that's really neat, which Van Damme, especially if you watch interviews now, he'll talk about him and Seagal having a beef, and Seagal hates him, but he's like, I really don't have an issue with the guy anymore. I mean, he seems like a nice enough guy, which has got to be a lie. Maybe it's diplomatic, but anyway, there's the infamous story. They were all at the party at Sylvester Stallone's, and there was some kind of conflict where, Seagal had run his mouth off, and Van Damme had challenged him to a fight out in the yard. And anyway, like Seagal bailed. It was like, yep, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not getting involved. And that has been corroborated by like over a dozen different actors. So that's probably a real story.
I can see that. Your boy.
No. I love making fun of him. That's what makes him my boys. I love making fun of him. He's just such an awful person.
Oh yeah. Looking to the box office here, a little background information. $23 million budget. Say, hey, we're jumping up here from $15 million Double Impact. So 1.1 blood sport, 1.3 kickboxer, double impact 15. So we're jumping up on some budgets here. Made 36 million, and I think looking back on it worldwide, 102. So definitely one of his better hits. True action movie with some up and comers. I would say Jean Claude was the bigger star over Dolph Lundgren at the time. Of course, Dolph Lundgren coming off like Rocky Four acclaim. I Come in Peace, personal favorite, aka Dark Angel, which didn't
Dark
make anything
Angel.
in 1990. He had some other films, but man,
Yeah,
Dolph
so
to me
Lundgren
was just
started super high, being like Drago, you know what I'm saying?
mm,
And then it was kind of like a slow, steady descent. I don't know. I think that was his peak. You know, I mean, he's in movies that are very fun to watch, but they're probably not what Rocky Four was. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, he did start out kind of like John Claude starting out with a boom almost with Bloodsport, kind of
Yep.
went down. But yeah, back to Dolph Lundgren. I thought great villain, the whole ear thing, him cutting the ears. I'm all
I'm
ears.
all ears.
He
Yep.
had some great one-liners, and he said he actually really wanted to make an impression on this. I think he even had like a one-on-one like acting trainer or acting teacher with him because he wanted to really show out on this one. And I heard both of them are on set, pumping up. They were in great shape at the time. And
Dolph
then
Lundgren is
Lundgren was
huge.
way bigger than him, 6'6". I don't even know what he was at the time, 250, just jacked.
Yeah,
And then Van Damme
like
being
Jack Reacher size or something.
he was also had Rolf Moeller in it, who was actually in Cyborg and like Best of the Best
Best of
two.
the Best two.
Yeah,
That was a cool fight scene in Best of the Best two with the metal bow sticks that were like sparking constantly between him and was it Philip Ray that was in
Philip Reed.
that? That was
Yeah,
yeah.
actually, Simon Reed, Philip Reed's brother, ironically, is in this too. He's one of the Unisouls.
Okay. So all right, out of the four movies we've talked about so far, where do you rank this one as far as your rewatchability? Like
Mm,
I think we both kind of agree Bloodsport's probably the top, right? So
yeah, I
where is
agree.
this one?
This will be in the latter. I'd say in that fourth to fifth range. I mean, and I'm
So it's
basing the
funny, this is the
rewatch on
fourth
this.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
I'd kind of like the order that it's in. I didn't put them in any particular order, but it'd be, and I always do rewatch. Well, let's just say if I was scrolling through the channels or even streaming, and I'm like, Universal Soldier, like, boom, it's something you can put in the background. You know it's going to happen. Watchable, Bloodsport. You're like, it just catches your eye. Like, I'm going to watch that. Because a lot of these movies these days are one and dones for me. You watch them, and then you're like, man, you click through, like, yeah, I don't want to watch that again. And I'm very like with my girlfriend, I'm very hard to kind of watch new movies with her. Whenever I'm like, yeah, seen it. Do I want to relive 90 minutes of that? Is it watchable, or are you gonna watch something a classic and you know how good it is and rewatch it? That's kind of my rewatchability.
Yeah, so out of the five movies that we picked to talk about with this one's my bottom. So now
Yeah,
that being said, it's still good.
yeah,
Okay. But
it is.
to me, the movie, it starts out so cool and so
Mhm.
like high octane action, and then it just slowly progresses backwards until you get the final fight.
To a
Because
chase scene.
you've got these these universal soldiers that are about like cyborgs that are not cyborgs, and they do these amazing stunts like, or they're scaling walls and doing these long swims like in 2 minutes, like 5 miles or something like that. And
Yeah.
I mean, just the concept is awesome. And I'm gonna see if I can share my screen so we can see some of the this is actually ironically the movie that I had the hardest time finding pictures for. I couldn't believe that. But anyway, super cool poster. Can you see it?
Oh yeah. The future
Yeah, I
has a bad
love that
attitude.
poster. Yeah, the
Yeah.
future has a bad attitude.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. But so like they've got all this gear, so like everybody can watch what they're doing, right? They've got these huge Desert Eagle pistols, and which, by the way, if you remember in Double Impact, there's a scene with a laser where Chad is getting the laser pointed at his head, and it shows the Desert Eagle that has like the hugest laser that could have ever been put on anything. I mean, this thing was the size of like a football, maybe
It
bigger.
was.
It was
Yeah.
crazy. So
Yeah.
in this one, we've got the Desert Eagles again with we're starting to come down in size on the lasers where they're actually tactical. Prior to that, it was like, okay, that's neat and funny and gimmicky, but you would never actually go on a mission with that. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, there you're all ears.
Mhm.
So, but this is just so cool. I mean, look at it. And they do these cool action scenes that go in and they free all these hostages. And then it's a road movie where, like,
Yeah.
he starts to get his memories back, and and Dolph Lundgren gets his memories back, and they start killing all the actual military guys. And And then it just kind of becomes a fairly simple chase movie where like he's constantly overheating and the woman's so happy he has to keep getting naked and jump in a hot tub or something.
They're taking steroids before steroids. Ding, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So but then like I said, it just I don't know. I would have liked to have seen, I mean, we'll call it a John Wickian movie if we want to look at an action movie now, where it's just nonstop action scenes that are similar to that, that's got a point and a plot.
Yeah.
And I still feel like, because I mean, they had a cool truck and trailer they were driving around in. It's like they blew all their budget on the opening action scene. And then, because you got the shootout, the very beginning in Vietnam, then you've got like the dam. And I mean, I haven't watched this in a while, but I can't remember anything until the final fight scene where like, he gets kicked onto the tractor thing.
I will say the comedic is him fighting in the restaurant or whatever, and he's just like, remember they're like, "Are you going to pay for this?" And he's just killing. He's all starving. Eats like
Yeah.
three plates of like hamburger, steak, and gravy, and he's just like, "The food is good."
Yeah. So we talked about his acting. I
Yep.
thought his acting worked really good in this movie, from what I
He's a
remember.
good
Because like,
cyborg, and he's
that's what I'm
mechanical
saying.
and moves around. Yeah,
I mean, for like Schwarzenegger being the Terminator, I mean, the Austrian accent didn't really kind of sort of make sense, but it also doesn't not make sense. I mean, why couldn't a cyborg have an Austrian accent? But I mean, like the real stock, real nonsense, just, oh, we're so structured and just delivering the lines, like it really worked. And I mean, Schwarzenegger does that, which I mean, I think is part of the reason why Terminator is so iconic. But another great villain, by the way. But anyway, it works for Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren the same way in this, like them kind of being like real, just like stern actors. I mean, that don't really have a whole lot of emotion. I mean, it just plays right into it.
it did, and I felt like the it was more realistic fight scenes at the very end. He kind of
Yeah.
kicked a lot of butt, like front kick, kind of high kick. He'd punch the guys, just and he's like eating the whole time while he's kicking butt, getting a piece of bread and eating popcorn. Is that was kind of good comedic right there, and it showed Van Damme he could be kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then they kept saying, "How are you going to pay?" And he's like, "I don't know. The food is good." And then that was kind of funny, but like I will agree, the whole road movie and chase scenes. And then I thought the special effects though for the 23 million and the explosions were good. And I think they probably had a good stunt coordinators from what I read.
Yeah.
Those were really good. The suits were good. Big muscle guys. I think Tiny Lister was in it. Debo from Friday popped up in there.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
Music was a good cast. Also, a little behind that, this ended up having some terrible sequels too. Had Part Two, which is hard to watch. Michael J. White, some decent fight scenes. Bill Goldberg, I felt like that was rushed just to have a sequel. And then those other Universal Soldiers, man, one of them was like Burt Reynolds. Some of those were cringeworthy, I
Are you
believe.
serious? I was going to say, like, because I've seen The Return that had Michael Jai White in it. I've seen
Yeah,
that one. And that fight scene with Michael Jai White at the end, that scene was pretty good. Like with him like
that's
getting
not bad.
froze and all that kind of stuff. No real complaints on that one. You know what I'm saying? But the other like regeneration, and I don't know. I feel like there's like two or three more after The Return, which The
Had
Return, by the
Scott
way, is,
Atkins in one of them too. That one was a
yeah.
little weird.
So, which I mean, The Return is awful. I mean, I
Yeah.
think, I rate movies all the time on the IMDb. I think I gave that one a 3 because the movie doesn't really have a plot or it's very nonsensical, which I mean, you watch the end of the actual Universal Soldier, the start of Return doesn't really make any sense. But then you go past that, you watch it for the fight scene at the end, and that's it.
I'd say actually Universal Regeneration, they have a pretty good fight scene with him and Lundgren at the
I was
end.
going to say that's got Lundgren back too, doesn't it? Which
That
how does that happen? How does Lundgren come back? He got like diced up like a salad.
they brought him back somehow. I mean, it kind of went off the rails. The sequels, they were just trying to make another sequel. I don't know if they needed paychecks. I think they filmed it in Bulgaria in 2009 when everything was filmed there. But
Yeah, there
anyway,
was.
overall good action flick. Like I said, put it in his top five on the ladder. But Universal Soldier it was a hit at the time. Good testosterone driven action film and had
So
fun in it.
I,
Yeah.
I, I'm gonna throw a monkey in your wrench before we go to the next movie. Why
Okay.
this one over Lionheart?
Ooh, I'm gonna go to more of the pure action, even though we were talking about this the other day. I originally had Lionheart in my top five because of the acting, the drama. This was maybe a better like overall acting movie for Lionheart, but I guess I was just going for more overall like Van Damme with action because I still kind of had him as kind of the more the karate martial art, just martial art guy at that time. But that would be right outside the top five to me, maybe
Yeah,
even top
see,
five.
with
Honorable mention.
Kickboxer, Bloodsport, and Lionheart, you really at the core of it, you have the same movie. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And out of those three, to me, Lionheart is the worst.
Mhm.
Which I actually just recently from Germany got a director's cut of Lionheart, which I haven't watched yet. I may feel differently if I watch it now, but I remember watching it. I haven't seen it in like 20 years. I bet the last time I saw it was with Ryan at his house in Waynesboro, probably. And
Wow,
to me, like there were good setups for fight scenes. Like you got all the cars in the circle and you're fighting in the middle and stuff like that. But I don't, just something about it wasn't the same as like Bloodsport. And
I agree.
Kickboxer actually doesn't even have that many fights with Van Damme. It's got a lot of training. It's got
Mhm.
like a lot of potential. But like there's the one guy he fights before Tong Po. You know what I'm saying? That he has to beat to show, oh, he's a really good fighter against this one guy. I guess he can fight Tong Po. But even with that, somehow in Lionheart, like I like the story setup. I like the end, but I just didn't think the fights were quite as good, to be honest with you. It was to me, I think by then they were a little derivative in how they did it. But then when you get to Double Impact and you get to Universal Soldier, you've got the gunfights where like the martial arts become part of the fight. Like, okay, I'm out of bullets now, so now I've got to spin kick the guy. It gets a little more interesting than
Mhm.
now we're doing the same thing for the third time after Bloodsport and Kickboxer. To me,
I agree. Yep. But yeah, just overall action. Like I said, you got guns and the action and fight scenes and everything. So that's why I picked Universal Soldier over that one.
yep. We ready for number five?
Number five is going to be Hard Target. Actually, got to do the rewatch. There it is. Don't Hunt What You Can't Kill, 1993. John Claude coming in with a mullet, definitely looking John Woo joint.
Actually, hold on, time out, real
Yep,
quick. There's one thing I wanted to say about Universal Soldier. In all these movies, I was trying to get pictures of a split. I don't think he did a split in Universal Soldier, did he?
that's right. He didn't.
So that might be the first movie he didn't do a split. So that's
Mhm.
another thing to take into account with Universal Soldier. All right, and move
Right.
forward.
There you go.
back to Hard Target.
John Woo, which it, I heard this was just a total man re-edit. From the trivia I was reading, Lance Henriksen's character, Email Fushan, wherever, it was basically focused a lot on him. And Van Damme kind of took it over and said, hey, this is supposed to be a Van Damme movie and re-edited a lot of the whole thing. I heard this is like a re-edit process. But Yancey Butler coming into town to try to find her estranged,
Witchblade.
yeah, there you go, estranged husband, and he was hunted down at first. First off, I thought a great intro credit scene with the arrows and the music and the slow mo, John Woo slow mo. That was
Yep.
great action sequences, and I think actually the way we mentioned with was it was it Alfred Justice or one of those is the most violent movies of 1993, and this was NC-17 originally. They had to cut it
No,
down.
it was marked for death.
Mark for that. Yeah, this
Yeah,
was in
marked for death.
1993 with the most violent films of that one.
So
Arnold Vosloo was a great villain too, so they had a great co-stars. I thought.
so I love Lance Henriksen. I really
Yep.
do. A lot of I don't know that I think a lot of times he's playing Lance Henriksen, you know what I'm saying? But that's fine. Like him, playing the character that he plays is great. Again, another connection to the Terminator actually, because he was supposed to be the Terminator, but he actually wound up having kind of a bit part in it. But
Mm.
yeah, so there's a common theme here. Like Van Damme really, really had to work hard to become successful because Bloodsport was supposed to be dog trash and they were just going to forget about it. And he would like constantly go in and do re edits and make it look good, and got it to where it is, which is an absolute classic. And then you've got, again, like you say with this, John Woo had made a movie. I don't know, this may be the first American film he had made. Before that,
It
he was
was.
making a bunch of Hong Kong films. So it is not the same. It's not the same as making a Hong Kong film and making an American film. Go look at Jackie Chan's The Protector. And you've got the American version, which was what was intended to be made. And it's very serious. It's very bloody. It's a very cool movie. It's actually my favorite Jackie Chan movie. And then you've got Jackie Chan's cut because he did his own edit for the Hong Kong audiences. And it's got the Jackie Chan goofiness, running up a ladder and,
Mhm.
kicking a paint can or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So you kind of come back to Hard Target and you've got the same thing. And so you've got like Seagal, who was doing a lot of the same stuff with his first movies, co-producing and writing. Van Damme is like coming up with some of the stories and editing his own stuff. Stallone is a phenomenal writer. He writes a lot of the movies he's in. And then you've got Schwarzenegger, just the biggest man in the world, didn't do any of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, but these other guys, I don't know, they're all thought of these big muscle bound idiots. That could not be further from the truth. As much of a trash person as Seagal is, he's still insanely smart. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's very good. If nothing else, he's very good at marketing himself. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And then you got Van Damme, the same thing. I think all of these guys, they had an unbelievable work ethic. They were a lot smarter than they're given credit for. And the success that they had much, much, much more to do with them than their producers and their production companies.
Completely agree. Universal Soldier, not Universal Soldier, Universal Pictures, like you mentioned, John Woo's first American film. So $18 million budget, modest budget, 32 million at the box office and gross 74. So definitely a hit. I thought the look of it in New Orleans, the slow mo, it had some of the trademark John Woo with the white doves, Mexican standoff, a lot of gunplay in it. You did get to see a little bit of Van Damme. I thought the fight scenes were really good. Gotta love the slow mo on this because this had a lot of slow mo, and I know John Woo loves it. Some people said that's exhausting after a while. I really liked it. Him being the homeless guy,
He was
and
the healthiest, biggest homeless guy I've ever seen. I'm just gonna say that. But yeah.
he he was also a love scene originally supposed to be in there was edited out. I'm surprised they didn't have that in there, but it might have been good not just throw it in there for no reason.
And see, that's kind of what I was saying a minute ago. I think when you look at Van Damme's movies, like that's a pretty common theme. I,
Mhm.
I think it's a pretty common theme in Schwarzenegger movies. That's not the first Terminator where you see Linda Hamilton naked. You know what I'm saying? But you go back like Commando, Terminator 2, um, Total Recall. Well, no, Total Recall had Sharon Stone in it, so maybe that's not a good example. But anyway, that was especially for the time not common. So that good on Van Damme. You know what I'm saying, for not having the obligatory stuff that was not integral to the story.
Hey, this is interesting too. Looking on IMDb here too. Guess who was originally sought for the role of Chance Boudreaux, but they didn't. But they couldn't wait 2 years to film it with him. The studio went with Jean Claude instead.
What year was this made?
91. No, I'm sorry, 93. 93.
Charlie Sheen.
It's a good guess. Anyway, hey, Kurt Russell. Been interesting.
Oh, I love Kurt Russell. That's a good one. Okay. I mean, it wouldn't have been the same. You know what I'm saying? Which, how did you like the mullet in this movie?
Yeah, like it was. It's definitely different. I think it was extensions, but definitely different look.
This is a great poster. I love this poster.
That was it. I love the colors in it too. Don't hunt what you can't kill. I mean, that's a might be one of
Yeah.
his better posters. And you're
Yeah, and I mean
yeah,
that,
maybe
that don't hunt. Yeah, that's a phenomenal tagline. I mean, the one a minute ago with Universal Soldier, where it's like the future has a bad attitude, like that
yeah.
was stupid cheesy, and it really doesn't even have anything to do with the movie, really. But like, don't hunt what you can't kill. Like with it, this is there's a short story called the most dangerous game,
Mhm.
and there's a whole lot of movies that are based off of that plot, and this is one of them. And I mean,
Yeah.
of course, like with them hunting people because they've gotten bored of hunting rhinoceroses and stuff like that. I mean, this is a phenomenal poster, great poster. It
Also
ties
had
into the
that Scott Atkins Hard Target 2, which was
two.
painful to watch. That was painful
I,
to watch.
I think I had Rona Mitra in it also, which she's like one of my favorite actresses of all time. But like you were talking about the beginning, it's very iconic with the arrows. That's a very big thing throughout the movie. And then I mean, just you got the crosshairs and the hard target. Whoever did this poster, they knew what they were doing. They were good at their job.
I like the music too. Graham Revelle, wherever. Good music in
Yeah,
it.
he did a lot of good soundtracks. Man, look at that arm though. Like I can tell you, you say what you want about Van Damme, that guy had a body. Now you like you say, it wasn't Schwarzenegger, like
Yep.
so overblown, but man, that dude, I'm jealous. I'm not. That's all I'm gonna say. Jealous.
Yep.
There's the extensions and the earring,
That's
but
after I think he did the flip whatever the motorcycle over the thing and shot
dude,
it up and he's like, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an interesting action scene where he like jumps up and he's like, on a trapeze, basically, like with the motorcycle for that action scene.
I will say the stuntmen on there were a little visible, some cheesy ones. You might
Yeah.
see some hair. It wasn't John Claude, but I mean, it's the 90s. Great
That
spin
was
kick, by the way. That was a good one.
wow. I didn't know that picture was so small. I could have fixed that. But yeah, that's the closest I could find to a split in this movie too, because I don't think he does a split in this one either.
Yeah,
Man, great action scenes in this movie.
it was.
Great. Dude, the striations that guy had in his arms, like, I mean, he was in such good shape.
It was.
Oh man, I love this. We got the snake. This is the movie where he punches the snake and
Hey,
then
looking on that, looking
he
back
gives the
on it,
snake a bite.
did you think that did that age well looking back on, or was it kind of cheesy? That and it probably it was what not CGI at the time or computer generated, I assume.
Oh
Would
no,
you say?
it was a like a little prosthetic
Oh,
or something he bit off. But
yeah,
you know, that's another movie. It's been a year now probably, but I watched it recently. And you got to watch it with Ryan,
I
because they
did.
just came out with like that extended cut.
Got to
I
watch
don't,
it with him.
I just straight up. You've seen the movie more than me, I'm sure. I don't even know what they added, to be honest with you, 'cause it's like 3 or 4 minutes. I know they added a little more gore,
They did.
to the action scenes, but past that, it wasn't like any story was added or anything. Not really.
But
We
all
had
in all, yeah.
the Quaker Oat man that showed up at the end. It was
Oh,
like,
for
oh
Brimley,
yeah, man, he was cool, man. Talking
it
like,
was.
all Louisiana. Can't half understand him. It was great.
I still got your shotgun. Though. Throws it
Yeah,
to him.
yeah.
But slow mo, the Doves, the trademark of John Woo. I mean, Face Off was good. I think he did Broken Arrow, and then I think
Face Off. I think Face Off is my favorite John Woo movie. Yeah,
yeah,
Mission Impossible 2 was awful to me.
yeah,
Had a great trailer, man. It looked like it was going to be an amazing movie, and then it had literally no story.
oh yeah. But this is the like the echelon, the top of Van Damme's career. He's coming off hit after hit. Later followed by we might discuss it a later time. Time Cop. So this was his heyday, and then slowly declines. We'll get in that at a later time, but those are my
Yeah,
top five rewatchable retro rewatch Jean Claude Van Damme movies, and watched three of them recently. So it was good to go revisit it. Very nostalgic from my childhood, so I enjoyed it a whole lot.
yeah, I think Van Damme will be a topic we hit on again. He's got a lot of good stuff to talk about, and I think there's different angles we can talk about it. But
Mm.
so, I mean, I'm sure it's probably me more than you, but I know Seagal comes up in every one of these things. I mean, it's almost kind of become a trademark. I think that he comes up. But so we got a head to head. Who made more money?
Like through all 71 films and the crap now
No,
comes
let's
out, or
so I'm going to tell you, I cheated. I went, what I did, I went and I looked at their first 10 movies. Now with Van Damme, I started with Bloodsport and I cut out Black Eagle because technically Black Eagle came before Bloodsport, even though they released it after. So but if you took the first Van Damme, you would go Bloodsport to Time Cop. Actually, it would be his 10th movie that were big grossing movies. You know what I'm saying? Like not including that the stuff he started with. And for Seagal, I think that goes through the Glimmer Man, the movie. Oh, Fire Down Below. It was Fire Down Below was his 10th movie. Okay, so which one made more money?
I know Under Siege. I think Under Siege was his highest and definitely made more than Van Damme's ever top Time Cop. Hmm. I hate to guess it, but I'm gonna go with Seagal just because his some of his early movies made some really good money looking back on it.
Yeah, so it's not even close. So
Hmm.
I know, like growing up, I mean, to me, Schwarzenegger was the top of the pile. I mean, he
Yeah.
was the best of the best. His movies were the awesomest to me. Now, especially as an adult, going back and watching it, like Stallone's movies in a lot of ways are better movies, and Stallone is the better actor. I know a lot of people would say he's a ham. This guy's an Oscar-winning like director, writer, filmmaker, actor. He really is good. Like he
Oh, yeah.
really is.
He is.
And Rocky, all that good stuff. Okay. I mean, I think his performance in Rambo is phenomenal. Up through five. Five is just dog trash. Dog trash. We don't even need to talk about five. But anyway, but with Seagal, I mean, booming on the street with number one, he made 19 million in that first one, where Van Damme's first one was 12. But in the second, Marked for Death, no, Hard to Kill. Sorry, Hard to Kill. He made 48, whereas
Mm.
like Van Damme actually went down to 11 on his second movie. So, but with the first 5 movies, Van Damme made 346 million
Hmm.
for the first 10. Seagal made 615 million for his first 10.
Wow.
That's incredible. So I didn't even finish my hierarchy. You got Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and then to me it was Van Damme, and then really I'd put Dolph Lundgren above Seagal, to be honest with you. Like, and then I mean Seagal might even be. Well, I would have at the time would have put Brandon Lee in there because I mean you would have had Showdown in Little Tokyo, you would have had Rapid Fire, which I like both those movies a lot. And I mean, Seagal is just even back then, I just didn't care for him. I mean, his action scenes weren't as good. Like you mentioned earlier with Van Damme. Like Van Damme got hurt. Like, I mean, he would be tore up after a fight. It was interesting. It was like, man, he's working, he's got to work for this win. And Seagal is just like,
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, it's after a while, you watch the movie for something else, you know what I'm saying? But
Oh,
so
man,
if you put so after Time Cop, which made 101 million, Street Fighter made 100. That blew my mind. It was only 1 million behind Time Cop. And then
yeah.
you've got
That wasn't
Sudden
a good
Death.
movie at all.
Oh God, it was awful.
Yeah.
And why didn't they make it like Bloodsport? Why didn't they make it like Mortal Kombat? Anyway,
What
back to the point.
why didn't John Claude Van Damme play Johnny Cage? If he had to do all over again, he could have been the star, maybe made him more
It
of
would
a
have been
character.
well, I mean, for those video game movies, especially at the time, Mortal Kombat is the best.
Yeah.
Full stop. Full
And
stop.
they even said Johnny Cage character was based off of John Claude Van Damme.
110%. Like,
And he
no
didn't even
doubt.
play it. That's a miss. But I mean, at the time, I think they gave him crazy money for Street Fighter. Anyway,
Yeah, they did. So, and I mean, he was cracked out by then all the time. I mean, he was barely showing up to set. Like, I mean, it's funny. You go back and you watch documentaries that are on the DVD and Blu-ray, you can tell he was doing some drugs. But so then
mhm.
you've got Sudden Death that made 65. So I'm going to give Van Damme 12 movies. He's still at only 510. That's 100 million less than Seagal at 10. That's kind
Yeah,
of crazy.
it
Now
is.
I will say this, Seagal, like by 10, I mean, because after Fire Down Below, you had Exit Wounds, and that's pretty good. You don't have another one until Machete, which he's barely in. Van Damme did continue to make some fairly good movies for a while. I mean, Seagal's, if we say Seagal's got good watchable movies, he's got about 10 of them. Van
Mhm.
Damme's got way more than 10. He's probably more around 20, maybe even more than that. They may not be good, but you can at least sit through them. Seagal, he's got some that are like literally the worst movies ever made.
I mean, John Claude had later in his career his different type film JCVD highly acclaimed, and that got really
Yeah.
good ratings.
Well, yeah, and you have that Jean Claude
Reviews.
Van Johnson, which is
Yeah.
kind of in a similar vein. I don't, that was the Amazon Prime show. I'm going to throw a quick tease in here. So there was I did a short on it. I definitely talked to you about Raw Force. I think that may
Mhm.
have been my first short. So like Mortal Kombat took a lot from Raw Force. It had like Raiden, it had Liu Kang, it had Johnny Cage, it had Sonya Blade. Like it had all these characters that eventually in Mortal Kombat are in Raw Force. Now Raw Force, it's a funny movie to watch because it's so bad, but I really feel like that movie would be a great movie to remake now, like with modern, like a Scott Adkins kind of thing, playing a Johnny Cage type character. But anyway, I just had to throw that in real quick.
So yeah, all in all, childhood hero. He'll be beloved. 63 at the time. So maybe we'll talk about John Claude and some of his later films on down the road. But yeah, it was great to revisit, rewatch
If you
John Claude
watch
Van Damme.
interviews with Van Damme around the time of like Street Fighter, he did not come across as a very likable guy to me. But before that, like around Kickboxer, when he had the infamous dance scene, he was doing interviews in, he seemed like a super fun guy. And
He
if you
did.
like see interviews with him now, he seems like he would be a really cool guy to hang out with. Like, I mean, he seems like he would have stories. Like you could just sit and listen to him. Like that documentary that's on Bloodsport, like I was talking about, that was him, kind of like us right now. I think it was his phone because it buzzed a few times while he was doing it, but I think he just sat his phone down and he just talked for 40 minutes about
Yeah.
how he got into the film industry and like how blessed he was to be able to live the life he lived. I mean, he just
Yeah.
seems like
Seems
such
very
a
humble
different
now.
person. Yeah, than what he was like during like sudden death era, whenever it was like, yeah, I want Jim Carrey money. His movies were not making Jim Carrey money. It's like we
Mhm.
just talked. Seagal was kicking him under the curb, and I mean, to me, Seagal's way down here.
Yeah.
But anyway, I will, I really like Van Damme. I think his movies are very watchable. I think they're very entertaining. I would watch a Van Damme movie 10 times over before watching a Seagal movie.
There you
But
go.
anyway, so I mean, I don't know that he was my childhood idol like he was to you, but I mean, that's my take on Van Damme. I very much like Van Damme, and very very cool movies.
Exactly. Man, the myth, the legend, great. I still follow him to this day. I'll admit his movies have gone down a little bit over the years, but I'll still follow him.
Did
Can
you watch that
always.
new one? What was
I
it,
did.
Darkness of Man or something like that?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Chris gave me a copy of it. I watched it once. It didn't really have too many kicks. I know he's 63, 62 at the time whenever he filmed it, but I mean, he's still doing his thing. I think he's got some other ones in the hopper coming up. I'll continue to follow him. I think he still wants to make maybe one more martial art type movie. I just don't know how physical what he'd be able to do. I mean, he still looks like he's in shape, moves around okay for his age. I just don't know. I don't
So
know what.
let's so yeah, Arnold, Stallone, Van Damme, all of them look like, I mean, even Lundgren, they all look like they, for their age, they are probably the top 1% of their age group.
Yeah,
Seagal is the fattest slob on the planet.
he is.
Like, again, just another comparison.
Yeah.
Like,
Another thing, real quick, with Van Damme was great with Seagal. I know we've been talking about Van Damme, great, keeps on great, impressive, like running style, like looked like an action star, like in Hard Target, man. Like had the gun when he would run after people, like look like a masculine man. And of course, you got Seagal in these movies with the
with the
T-Rex
T-Rex
arms,
arms,
so he
the
looked
floppy
like an action
noodles.
star, ran like one, took a hit, could feel the pain. So that's why I always like watching him.
I concur.
Yeah.
All right,
Also,
man. Well,
also another thing, real quick, we didn't touch on. How about how many times he played twins?
yeah,
Twice
we
in Double
did.
Impact,
Yeah, I think it's
Maximum
about 4 or
Risk.
5 times when it's all
It
done.
was,
Yeah.
it was. So he had that. But we might touch on that at a later time.
Yeah. That'd be
Think
a
we
good
might have
one.
hit the
Hit the
rewatch
end of the
button.
tape.
There it is.
Time to hit the rewind button and get to the video store.
That's it. Hey, appreciate everybody still sticking around. Make sure to like, subscribe, share the podcast. And as always, be kind, rewind.